No matter where you find yourself on the leadership spectrum, they directly and massively impact your life right now. So none of this stuff is going to be things that you can't apply. None of these things are like, well, that's good for Nehemiah, but that's not good for me. All of these things are directly applicable to our lives right here, right now. So number one, our first leadership principle is this, in verses 1 through 3, wait on God's time. This first thing that we see here in this idea of waiting on God's time is that good leaders know when is just as important as what. Nehemiah knew what to do. He wanted to go back and rebuild. He wanted to go and do something about the problem. But when matters just as much as what. And godly leaders know that God's timing is the timing that matters most, not mine. Our second leadership principle there is found there in verse 4. Look back at verse 4. It says this, "Then the king said to me, 'What do you request?' So I prayed to the God of heaven." Number 2, rely on God's ability. Here's the principle: as we rely on God's ability, it's that good leaders know that when an open door presents itself, good leaders know that. But godly leaders know that when God doesn't open the door, you'll either fail miserably or succeed even more miserably. Number 3, verse 5, prepare with God's wisdom. Good leaders know that how matters just as much as what and when. It's not just what to do, it's not just when to do it, but also how matters a lot. And we need God's wisdom. And so that's where godly leaders know that God's way is always the right way. All right, number 4, verses 5 through 10, stand with God's strength. Here's the thing. Good leaders know you need steel in your spine. That's what good leaders know. If you're going to stand, you've got to have steel in your spine to stand up for what's right and to stand against what's wrong. But godly leaders know that if you bow before the one God, then you'll be able to stand before all men. All right, number 5, as we move on, examine by God's insight. Good leaders know they have limited resources. That's what good leaders know. I don't have all the time. I don't have all the money. I don't have all the people. I don't have all the stuff that I want to do everything. I have limited resources. And so good leaders know they've got limited resources, but godly leaders know they need God to help them see what matters most and prioritize by His understanding. Number 6, verses 16 through 18, direct with God's authority. Look at verse 16, the principle behind it. Good leaders know that a team accomplishes more, right? If you're just a good leader, you get the idea. If I got a team, then we can do more. That us can do more than me. But godly leaders know that the men God calls to His team will give their all without being convinced. 7th and finally, verses 19 and 20, defend with God's boldness. You see, good leaders know that they will have to navigate opposition. If you want to do a good work, if you want to set your hand to a good work, there's going to be opposition. And godly leaders know that spiritual warfare is fought by holding firm to God in the truth.